Can I just give a quick reminder to colleagues to turn your microphones on when you're speaking? When we live stream, people do check in with us and when they can't hear councillors speaking. So, thank you. Now, I'll just run through the so-called red amendments for the
infrastructure.
For the infrastructure section. So they are the Cycleway amendments with the names McDonald, Gov, Major, Chu, Kuan, around deferring all non-shovel ready cycleways, etc., redirecting 50% of the savings and removing the remaining 50% of the savings from the capital program, and the advice that I have accepted is that the council went out for consultation with the proposal that getting more people cycling is key to addressing climate change, creating healthier communities and reducing congestion. The major cycleway routes and other cycleways are designed to encourage people to ride because they can see that it's safe and a convenient option. It's a council-led NZTA endorsed and funded network of cycle routes, the program, from multiple Christchurch suburbs into the CBD. So it would require a significant amount of consultation in order to adopt a position which is counter to the position that we went out and consulted on. So that's the ruling. I've ruled that out of order.
So will you take questions on those, Leanne? Or?
No, I'm ruling that out of order. And then the next one is Bromley Roading. I haven't had a chance. I'm just waiting for some additional advice on that one. But I'm possibly of the view that that is one that we could get some additional advice through in the Chief Executive's report, so that would turn it blue rather than leaving it red, but I haven't had a chance to talk to Councillor Johansson about that.
Sorry, which one was that, Leanne? Which one was that, please?
Bromley
63.
Roading, 63. So this was about adding additional money to the capital program, but I've just asked for some advice about what is currently on the program for that and where the community board is up to, because they've been doing some work on that. Right. Okay. So one's blue, and I will refer it to the Chief Executive's report.
Okay. And that was just to be clear though, that's the request for operational funding to do the planning. So I've withdrawn the one for the 3 million.
That's blue. Yeah. And so that will come back to council within 2 months. The next one is the Ferry Road Master Plan, which I'm advised.
I can't give you a figure.
Sorry, no, that's right. That was the one that you discussed with the Chief Executive before, and she's not in a position to give you a figure now, but you can see that there's an amendment to the Mayor's recommendation, which at least addresses the issue of crossing Ferry Road for the Phillipstown community, which was the primary issue. Public transport, council's not in a position to amend a document that's not the council's document. We had adopted it, but it is the Greater Christchurch Partnership, which essentially holds the pen on the public transport future investment case, and those are the rulings. So I ruled that out of order as well. So now we'll move on to the infrastructure amendments.
Oh, sorry, Leanne, is there an opportunity to ask council officials about the advice though?
No.
There's not?
No, I've ruled it out of order. I explained that beforehand, that that I make a decision. It is not debatable.
Right.
So no, it's not up for
So we can't even
discussion.
question the advice provided.
No, I have accepted the advice that I have been provided, and I have ruled it out of order.
So will
that
that be
is the one advantage that I have sitting here, is that I make the decision whether to rule it out of order or not. It is not subject to debate, and I will end this conversation now. Could we move to the amendments? And I want to have a record of who's moving and seconding each of the amendments. So could we drop down to the amendments, please?
You've gone too far. That's it.
Right, we've got the Sarwin Street Master Plan Amendment, moved councillor Coker, seconded councillor Scandrett. The Cycleways resolution to complete by FY28, moved and seconded Davidson Templeton. The connections to Norwest Arc Major Cycleway route, moved Coker, seconded Galloway. The Gardners Road Shared Path, moved Kewen, seconded McDonald. The speed limits, moved councillor Templeton, seconded councillor Johansson. Opawaho Heathcote Major Cycleway route, moved Johansson, seconded councillor Chen. And the Knights Drain deferral recommendation, moved Major, seconded councillor Chu. So,
How can Mike's amendment to bring forward the cycleways be
sorry,
in
sorry,
order?
are you now questioning my ability to rule on a matter?
I'm questioning
Because
why is
I have
A62
said that
allowed?
My decision is not subject to debate. That is contained within our standing orders, and I'm sticking to the
But it's completely
standing orders.
inconsistent.
I am sticking to the standing orders, and I would like councillors to just respect the fact that I have made a ruling. Thank you. Now, we'll move on to the resolution itself. So I will move the resolutions, which is set out for the Mayor's recommendations and the Chief Executive's recommendations. Do I have a seconder for that? Mike Davidson. And now I will open it up for debate, which are the amendments and the
Amendments
general,
first.
Are we
the
able to
general
ask questions?
topic as well.
Can we ask questions of the amendments though?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry, that's my fault.
So just
Questions?
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand. So Amendment 62, which is Mike Davidson's, in the A3 that we've received, is red in here, and now it's green. So not talking about our amendment that was not allowed in, but what has changed to allow Mike's to be brought forward, but ours not to be deferred?
So that's because it was originally judged on altogether, so it's now been separated into three sections. Two of them have gone to blue, so they've gone to a report, and the first one, the one that this relates to, is resolves to complete the current major cycleway routes program by FY28.
And is
Yes.
that just 1 year ahead
Yes,
of the
correct.
current schedule?
Yeah.
Right.
So, because it says in here that there's a risk to consultation required, which is the reason we've been given why we can't table our amendment.
Because that was looking at all of them, which also included a
30
33
million.
million of implementation of a new major cycle route. That was why that it was read.
So
So
you-
that would have required it. Now that he's separated them out, which is what's happened since Friday, now we are ruling on the three individually. The 33 million has come out, so it is not included. So the one that this is in relation to is just the request to complete the program by FY28.
So some councillors have taken the opportunity of, taking on the staff advice and amending their proposal or proposed amendment in order to
Yeah, well, it's just
meet
changed
another
twice
set of
today though, so I
requirements.
wasn't quite sure how that is consistent or
Yeah,
fair to the rest of us, but
the-
that's okay.
The two subsequent parts.
It is consistent, Councillor McDonald.
Well, it's changed since this
Yeah.
morning, so that just seems.
That's because
Yes,
the
and
number
that's
has
because
changed.
And then ours has been
it
ruled out of
has-
order,
the-
so
the
it just
two
doesn't
have
feel
been
right.
grouped.
That's
two
okay.
have
No,
been
no,
grouped.
we've lost. It's fine. It's very clear.
Two
We're not
have
allowed
been
to do it.
grouped, and instead of it being regarded as one whole and the 2 are going off for a report, and the 1 whole remains a green item for amendment. Are there any other questions for staff? We'll open it up for debate.
Just to simply express my absolute disappointment that we don't have the ability to have a serious conversation around this table today when we are looking to set an LTP to defer some of our capital program. It's been made very clear that some of it can be brought forward. If we cannot do this in a long-term plan debate, I don't know when we can. So just to put on record my complete frustration that in a democracy like ours, we've been quite deliberately, I feel, stymied from having an honest and open debate about this today is probably one of the worst things I've seen at this council to date, and I've only been here 18 months. So just to put on record again, my absolute dismay that this has occurred. It's not right for the city, and it doesn't foster, I think, openness and transparency.
Sarah?
Thank you very much. I'd like to express my disappointment that we're being accused of, or the organisation's being accused of a lack of transparency on this one. What's happened is a clear use of the current processes, which everyone is aware of. Everyone's really clear that if we're going to make significant changes to our budget, then we need to consult on that. And the time, if people wanted to defer cycleways, if we wanted to defer the cycleways, or we would have had to ask our community, the time to put forward this proposal was at the time of the draft long-term plan, at which point we would have been asking the community, do we want to defer the cycleways? And we could have made a reasonable, rational decision based on those submissions. It is not the organisation's fault or the mayor's fault that councillors didn't use the processes provided to be able to take up that opportunity. It's really clear there's a really strong difference between bringing 2 small sections of cycleway forward by 1 year in the very last year to make sure they're completed 1 year earlier, and deferring a series of cycleways by 5 years. The numbers simply didn't stack up in the amendment. Thank you.
Anyone else? Melanie?
I wanted to say I support the Mayor's recommendations here, except the CE 6A about Phillipstown Ferry Road Master Plan. I won't be supporting that. But what I wanted to really speak to was 2 of the amendments that I've put forward. The first one was about the Sarwin Street Master Plan. This was submitted on by Community Board, Waihoro, Braden, Cashmere. And I'll just take the time to read to you what they said. So Sarwin Street's commercial centre was badly damaged in the earthquake and lost much of its built heritage. This has disrupted the community's access to a crucial bumping space and convenient shopping and services. The Sarwin Street Master Plan sets out a community-agreed vision to transform the centre into a prosperous, attractive place for people to live, visit, spend time and do business. While the master plan includes both public and private sector-led actions, council investment is key to catalysing private sector investment. The master plan was approved in 2012 and originally scheduled for 2016. It was consulted on with the community 2015, but then delayed. The project is now delayed further to 2027, and the Community Board requests that this is brought forward to 2023 to align with the work on nearby Brougham Street, which we were told as a community board by Waka Kotahi people who came to the board. The other one I wanted to speak to was about the Norwest Arc and the local cycleway connections, and I support the other amendments around local cycleway connections because obviously they're important to connecting up the major cycleways that we have. And this particular connection is one that's been brought up by a number of residents that keep coming back, well, different people come back to our board to talk about it, to connect Westmoreland up with the Norwest Arc so that the students who live in Westmoreland can bike to Cashmere High. So there's a lot of subdivisions in the area and it is going to continue to grow, so we believe this connection's very important. So we would like to have that brought forward as a board. Thank you.
Okay. James?
I'll just touch on the fact that an LTP is the difference between the draft and then at this point in time now is our response to the submissions that we heard. And there was a significant number of people that came in that have said to us that they value and would like extra priority given to the repairs of footpaths and roads. So, you know, I agree with Sam that I think it's disappointing that we're not able to have, you know, a fair debate and consider the item of deferral of those cycleways. The deferral of the cycleways was not deletion of the cycleways. It would literally just allow our battered finances to take a breath for 5 years and then put 50% of that funding into road and footpath repairs and return the other 50% that was unspent back to rates. So I think it's tremendously disappointing that we're unable to respond to those submissions that we heard from people in the community that share the same view as us. You know, that is the entire point of a long-term plan and your capital program. So, you know, I entirely endorse what Sam said, that I think that it's incredibly disappointing that making changes to the capital program in light of the views of the community is completely the point of this process.
Okay, anyone else? Tim?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just speak quickly to three things. First of all, supporting Melanie with regards to the Sarwin Street Master Plan. This is an area, and it's a key activity area in this area that's being left behind following the earthquake. It's recovering slowly, but it needs help. It bumps onto Broome Street, which is one of the busiest streets in our city, which is a link between the port and the rest of the South Island, it seems, if you sit there at a busy time. It has a school, and it just is under pressure, and it is hard to redevelop when there is nothing planned. So with Waka Kotahi being a lot more open and wanting to work with us, they've planned for 2023. It would be logical for us to do the work in a master plan at the same time as Waka Kotahi, and they have mentioned that they would like to do that hand in hand with us to get a better outcome and a more financially balanced outcome if we develop this area together. So I think that's outstanding, which will be improving a key activity area and safety for the school. Second one is the local cycleway connections. The MCRs have been hugely successful and very well supported, but where we fall down, and it's a positive, is where there are gaps between our key cycle routes, and especially for school children and their families who want them to travel safely on bikes. So I think we do need a focus on this now, and a heightened focus, because if, and I will be selfish and concentrate on my area, in the southwest we have 10,000 homes planned. I've asked for the percentage of those that have been completed now, but through Westmoreland, etc., there is no safe cycle route on Cashmere Road for those school children who are going to the high school that is in their area, which is Cashmere High. It's a really wide road, people drive too fast on it, so that's just one example. You can have examples right through the city, so I think that's crucial. With regards to speed limits and the reduction of, everywhere we go, or I have been, communities want safe speeds in their community areas, not arterial roads, but in their neighbourhoods, again for safe travel on cycle and walking for school children and their families. So I think that is a really good area to look at. Waka Kotahi has been a lot more proactive around here. We've got some movement on there. Keep in mind, we only have 2 primary schools on hills. That is Cashmere Primary and Mount Pleasant Primary Schools. There should be a special look at those areas to make it safer, because cars travelling downhill at 50 or 60 k's are a lot harder to stop than on the flat. So I think we should be a wee bit more open-minded with that. So I will support all 3 of these. Thank you.
And Jake and Andrew.
Thank you. And thank you for your recommendations again, Leanne. And I think, did I read that there is $4.6 billion being spent on infrastructure, which includes the roads and footpaths, because of the response to the submissions that we had made about roads and improving the roads and footpaths condition. So I don't think we're neglecting that. I wanted to support the amendments on the local cycleway connections. I know that we're waiting on Waka Kotahi funding, and that staff are going to prepare a report for us on that. But I wanted to really support both Tim and Mel in that section of of roadway which is unsafe for young people to cycle along, that connects to the major cycle routes in the area. We also have another part that's through connects to Henderson's Bay, Henderson's Road, and through the end of Cashmere Road. So those are areas that, unless we get them upgraded to a level of safety that parents are comfortable with, we're not going to get our kids cycling there. So I'm glad to see that you've recommended that we proceed with the investment levels proposed, particularly for major cycleways and local connections, because at the moment those are inadequate. So and supporting Mike's work there and Mel's with the local cycleways. So thank you for that.
Jake.
I'm very pleased that although not part of an amendment today, the actions from today will finally result in some action happening on the reinstatement of the inner city shuttle in some form or another. It's also really important that that when considering how we best reinstate this service, that we consider all possible options. You know, since the shuttle has been and gone, we've had ideas like making all public transport free in the CBD, or Zone 0 as it's called. Now, I know this is an ECAN call, but we need to work with them to make sure, or to ensure that they're looking at all these options and doing more and doing their fair share for public transport as well. After all, I think these ideas don't compete with one another. They're actually quite complementary. So, yeah, really pleased that that we're going to make good progress on that.
Thank you. Andrew.
I'm generally happy with the Mayor's recommendations in this section, and generally happy with many of the amendments. There are a couple of the amendments that I'll be voting against that I wanted to draw attention to. The Gardeners Road shared path. I definitely support the shared path. I think it's got immense value. But I don't support the council fully funding this when the staff advice tells us that it's currently anticipated that much of this section of Gardeners Road can be provided for via private developments and private contributions. I don't see any need for council to be fully funding something when staff are giving us very clear advice that private developers will fund at least a part of this. And then obviously if there are gaps, we can fill those gaps as required so that we get a contiguous, safe shared pathway. So whilst I agree with the intent, I don't think this amendment is the correct way to go about achieving it from a funding point of view. The other amendments which seems to fundamentally misunderstand some of our requirements and our consenting requirements is the proposal to defer the Knights Drain stormwater basin. The staff advice is absolutely clear on this one, that the Knights Drain stormwater facility reduces contaminants and improves water quality prior to discharge to the Avon River. The reduction is required by 2023 to meet the conditions of the Comprehensive Stormwater Network discharge consent, unless the budget was redeployed to alternative options. That means that even if we deferred this, in order not to be in breach of our consent, we would need to spend this money on other similar interventions. Therefore, it wouldn't result in a saving. Postponing these works would mean council would be in breach of the consent requirements. Now, I remember, because I was involved firsthand at the time, discussions with Environment Canterbury, and probably more significantly agreement from Naitahu that got these comprehensive stormwater network discharge consent requirements over the line in a non-contested way. That was a huge achievement at the time, and to be disrespecting that consent now by withdrawing a major piece of infrastructure development that we've already agreed to would absolutely be the wrong thing to do. So I'll be voting against that. Because I believe in effective rather than wasteful investment. I believe in council upholding its reputation. I believe in environment. I believe in ecology. I believe in neighbourhood amenity. And I believe in flood mitigation measures.
Anyone else? Phil, Yanni and Jimmy.
I agree with Andrew about the discharge consent down for the dirty water going into the Avon River, but I see it no different than us putting waste into the Akaroa Harbour for years and years and years after our consents have expired. I see no difference. It's still water where it's going into. The one thing that I'm worried about is we're spending $8 million in Knight's Drain and we bought some land for $2 million, when within 30 metres of it, we got all the land we ever want for $1. We've got to start using our loaf. It's just throwing money away. It's not good. I will look forward to getting on that OARC co-governance group, because I want to stop this sort of rubbish happening again, because it is not clever. Cycleways, it varies here. It's written that we're spending 242 mil over 10 years. I have heard numbers of 305 million, so whatever it is, say it's 300 million. It means that we've still spent 150 million of our own money. I know Transit have paid for half it, and it's good, and I think it's bloody marvellous. But that's 150 million of money that we never had, and we've borrowed it, and that's why we're in the financial bind that we're in. I'm not against cycleways per se. I hear people talk about Centaurus Road and down where Tim is in Westmoreland and that. I'm more than happy to have a cycleway down there that's just painted on the road, not this Rolls Royce stuff. In some places, the cycleway is wider than the lane of traffic that it's going next to, and the disruption and inconvenience to people that live on some of these streets, but while they're being built and even after they're finished, is not worth the effort. But I'd just like to make clear, I'm not against cycleways. It's just the way they're being done. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanni.
So just to reflect on what we heard from submitters, lack of amenity and broken infrastructure in the east. Submitters who addressed a lack of amenity and broken infrastructure in the east indicated that they feel the east remains neglected despite promises of revitalisation, and in particular asked that we make funding for greening the east and OARC a priority. They signalled they would like to see the report of roads, footpaths and drains prioritised, I think it's supposed to be repair, prioritised over new assets, and that there's still a lot of earthquake damage that needs to be addressed, highlighting in particular areas that are still prone to flooding due to uneven ground levels. It then goes on to say the lack of improved cycleways connections in the east was addressed, with some suggesting cycleways should be prioritised in this area of the city as it's currently poorly serviced. So if you look through some of these recommendations, certainly the reason for putting forward the Pawaho Heathcote MCR, just for a small section of that, is the fact that we've actually got work happening now under the Kiwi Rail Bridge. We will never get a cheaper time to put some infrastructure there, whether it's for a local cycleway or an MCR, but the MCR route, the preferred route, goes right where we're spending money in the near future. Why wouldn't you do it at the same time? Save the money. I do concur with some of the costs we attach to the cycleways when we could actually do it at the same time as we're doing other work and get greater value and impact across our city. So I urge you to support that amendment. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's a very sensible thing to do. I'm really disappointed in the Phillipstown Ferry Road Master Plan being rejected for funding because fundamentally this is a community that lost its school, lost its stadium, is losing its community board, and yet it's had a huge increase in the number of intensive housing developments within the area, which many do not have adequate car parking or don't have people that use cars, so they cross Ferry Road frequently. And remember the submission we heard about how hard it is to get across the road. And although the staff have said that they're going to note that there's going to be some improvements made, the reality is that just recently, as part of the presentation that we got to the community board, that it said, as part of the solution, to advocate for funding in the LTP. So how that can't be picked up as part of this process for a request that went in of August last year is totally beyond me. So I don't agree with doing nothing for Phillipstown. I think that community deserves to have something being done to make it safer and improve the amenity in that small stretch. And finally, I just conclude with saying I do think we need to think about still fixing those broken roads, especially in places like Bromley. That process has been going on for over 3 years, and there's complete confusion about what's on budget, who's doing what, and to tell the local community board to fund $50,000 of funding to get some planning work done, when we actually as an organisation have staff that can do that work, that we employ to do that work, I find just completely unbelievable to addressing the submissions that we've heard.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yes. The infrastructure mainly consists of two parts. One is the three waters. Generally speaking, I fully support the council, particularly regarding to the 10 years, the $2.3 billion. And also, I would like to emphasize that even one of the item that I withdraw because there's the golden F. I would like to take example because the staff particularly mentioned they have already investigation and also the design work has been commenced. So expect the construction to be completed within 6 to 12 months. Because this issue actually is in relation to the health and the safety issue, and for many years, it's a good example. So these three waters, the infrastructure is very, very crucial and important. But the other example is I'm not support those light drain, to kind of defer. Because what if you defer, also will cause, these contaminate and to make this water the quality is a very, very bigger risk. So this the infrastructure. Regarding to the transport, if we review those feedback, particularly all those submissions, 78%, they particularly receive this one, give us the kind of more positive, the feedback. The request us, the transport is one of the most important aspects of plan. But transformational or long-term change is silent, resulting in a very conservative, effective-looking plan for our transport in future. So it means that we need to consider, this quite wide range, public transport, cycleway, and also the some other the active transport mode are all, my view, are all kind of the very, very crucial and also the important. But I would like to take an example. This one particularly we are all aware. In the original proposal, try to to close the recurrent bus lounge. That's part of the transport issue. So you can see the majority of the people is against 261 submissions, 77% is opposed. But recently, I also review 2014, those newspaper particularly emphasize in the central Richmond area, they have 3,000 the passenger, to get on, get off in those kind of. So that's quite serious.
Yes,
so that's why I fully support this
one.
one.
In the next section,
okay?
Because it's actually in the next section.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers.
Oh, that's one. Oh, okay, sorry, I thought the
It's okay, it's okay, it's all right, it's all right. You were within time. Anyone else? Aaron?
Yeah, I'll just speak to the couple of amendments that are in there. One of them is the one that was put forward by myself and Sam, which has been given a yellow card. So a number of my colleagues have spoken about this. Andrew, I'm quite disappointed in you that you don't support that shared path along there. Tim, you mentioned the along Cashmere Road. This part of Gardeners Road doesn't actually have a footpath. There's not even a shoulder. So this council that signed off a climate change policy this morning expects children to go to school. There's 3 schools in that area that kids can walk and bike to walk on the edge of the road on a 60k road. So that's the question you've got to ask yourself when you go to vote. Are you happy to let children, elderly people, people with dogs, walk on, there's no shoulder, there's no footpath, there's no shared path. You're about to vote against that, because I already know how everyone's going to vote. So it will be lost, but you will vote against children being able to walk to school. Yet this morning, you signed off a feel-good climate change policy, which won't mean much this afternoon when you vote against children in my area not walking to school. So look yourselves in the mirror when you get home and go, yes, I did change my mind during the debate and I did vote for those kids to walk to school to shut that guy up. Or no, I didn't, because I didn't believe in the climate change policy I voted on in the morning. And then the other one around the other addition that was red carded, so not even on the table at all, is around the cycleways. None of us are against cycleways. Some of us are very for cycling and cycleways. I believe the behaviour of this council, other councils and some of the government is actually putting people off biking. It's not encouraging people to bike, it's creating a split in our population. We want as many people on bikes as possible because it's good for them. It's good for their mental health, it's good for their personal health, it's good for local communities. You don't want the same people trying to force cycling down people's throats. By doing cycleways to communities, let's work with communities and get outcomes. Yes, 136 people submitted in support, but 98 unsolicited submitted against. We didn't go out and ask the question, would you rather have, instead of Rolls-Royce cycleways, would you rather a few Toyotas around the city as a cycleway? Probably not a good analogy, but Toyota have got a few electrics out. But it was, it's a case of cutting our cloth to get the result. Don't just say, let's build a cycling superhighway and expect massive numbers of people on it. That doesn't work. You need to work out what is the most people you can get on bikes for the amount of money you have to spend. Let's be a little bit smarter about the way we spend our money, and we might get better results and get a lot more people on bikes, because that's my goal, is to get people on bikes. Others, it seems, at this table seems to be picking fights.
Pauline.
Yeah, thank you. Look, with the Gardeners Road shared path, it's not just bunging a footpath down on the side of the road. This is an area of incredible complexity. There are two large intersections and land drainage infrastructure on both sides of the road, and it also crosses upper reaches of the Styx River. So that all adds to the complexity of consenting, design and construction. And so and there are plans to do it, but as Andrew has alluded to, that there will be private development contribution. So staff also do not recommend adding budget ahead of private developments or before detailed planning has been undertaken. So that detailed planning would then have to go out for consultation, and that would therefore not be able to be delivered in this next year. So I would say that this would be an annual plan discussion personally. So I won't be supporting that amendment today. And as far as the cycleways are going, I do believe that building the cycleways, the people are coming. The 80% increase does show us that. The feedback we get from the people who do use them and do like them is absolutely overwhelming, and Christchurch is on the New Zealand stage for our cycleway program. So I really do not like to hear people around this table not supporting one of our flagship projects. That those MCRs are one project. We need to finish that one project by finishing the 13 MCRs as soon as we can.
Any more? Mike?
Thank you. Look, I guess it's disappointing that so much of the conversation is actually focused on cycleways and the major cycleways, when actually you look at the transport budget, less than 10% of that budget actually goes into the cycleway program. Actually the majority of the money, over 75%, goes into our roading and footpath network. And through this process, right at the start, we were listening to people, and we actually put a significant amount of money, additional money, onto the long-term plan to actually get our roads into a better state of repair, lifting them from a previous annual amount of 2-point-something% up to nearly 6%. Because we're listening to actually the people of Christchurch. There may be a small group of people that say we're just focused on cycleways, but actually if you look at our transport spend, where we're actually putting additional money, that is not correct. Actually it's going across the board, and most of that is still spent on roads. It's very easy for people to spout out figures. They probably need to look at actually the spend and how it's spent, the amount of additional third-party money that we receive, especially in the major cycleways, because actually across New Zealand that people see the benefits of these projects, how they can improve so much more than just reducing emissions. We look at increased productivity, we look at better health and lifestyles. There's so many things that actually a cycleway can actually create. And when you start to take off those extra amounts that we're getting, the shovel-ready money, the whakatahi money, the contribution from DCs, the fact that actually a cycleway spend also delivers 30% extra investment to other areas outside of cycling, the money comes down to less than $30 million for cycleways over the course of the LT period. So start getting your facts right if you want to have a go at cycling. The proposal that was red-carded to defer their cycleways for 5 years was not an attempt to defer the cycleways, it was an attempt to cancel them. And it's such a shame from a city that's actually leading the way in New Zealand that we have that type of grandstanding happening. In terms, I just want to do a quote from Aaron, who put it on Facebook, and thank you for your very passionate debate about Gardeners Road. Your quote was that we should base our decision making on sound business cases instead of emotion. And so one of the things that I've requested, and it's going to be done through a report coming back, is actually have a look at all the local cycle connections, which will include the one out in your ward, to actually make sure we can have a look at which ones we need to move forward sooner rather than later, which I assume, with what you're saying, that will actually be right at the top of the card. That's what we need to do, to actually have a proper understanding of what cycling infrastructure we need to prioritise over other ones, because I'm hearing around the room from every councillor that they want these fast forwarded. So let's just get the proper information.
Thank you. James.
Kia ora, I'm going to just touch on cycleways to start with. The thing is, there's that quote, build it and they will come. That is what is happening. I come down Morehouse Ave every morning and I see the stream of commuters on cycles that come off Grove Road, I think it is, and Strickland Street. It is stunning, the number of people that use that. I didn't know that until I had to come that way, excuse me, into town recently. So that is a good example of build it and they will come. I do have issues with some of the engineering on some of them. I don't think we do ourselves a favour. A good example is Hanson's Lane. That's awkward and embarrassing when people talk to me about that. But in principle, I think we're doing the right thing. The one thing that I would like to see, though, is more of a commuter cycleway, or at least cycle lane from the northeast. There are so many people in Preston's and Preston's Park that struggle to get into town safely, and I'm prepared to donate one of my cars, sell it off, and you can put some money into it through that. But I'm very, very strongly an advocate and supporter of cycleways. The other thing that's before us at the moment is the Knights Drain, and my mate is advocating for it to be deferred and so on. I want to see that area tidied up. It's on budget. I do worry once again about how we do things, but the fact that we are doing them, I'd rather that we do them dumb than not do them at all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, I thought you'd spoken. Yeah. Sorry. Well, I'll just wind up this debate. So the one thing that I did want to mention at the outset was that this part of our budget also includes investing and upgrading and protecting our city's water networks. So the government's got a massive review of Three Waters infrastructure, and we will soon receive some of the information that relates specifically to our council. We've already seen the government put the budget on, well, not the budget, the costings on the in the public arena that identify the significant, massive risk to our country in relation to a lack of investment in Three Water infrastructure, and also a significant risk in terms of the resilience as far as climate change goes. So and the government is increasing standards both in relation to water standards, but also in relation to wastewater and stormwater in terms of the freshwater standards. So there's significant changes about to sort of hit. But what I'm very appreciative of is that councillors have agreed to continue to invest in this most important part of our city's network. I have doubts as to whether stormwater should be embraced within the government's Three Waters review. I would much rather that they focused on two waters, the water and the wastewater. It's very pleasing that there is this significant amount of investment continued in this long-term plan. In terms of the transport infrastructure, well, I'll just leave that to the rest of you. So there you go. That's the end of the debate. So I will now we'll go through the individual amendments. But I think that when we come back to the Mayor's recommendations, there will be the ability to carve out, for example, the cycle aspect of the transport one, so that you can vote against it, en bloc. So that would be fine. So we'll just trying to cater for everyone around the table. Okay, so now I'm going to do again what I did before. I'm voting against all of them because it's easy for me. We're going to go through them one at a time. I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, I will support it for the annual plan review, but I won't. I'm just going to take all of the councillors. It was either that or abstain, and I thought it's probably better that I just vote against them. So
A4 first.
So can you just note that I'm against all of them for that reason, right? Okay. So Sarwin Street Master Plan. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No.
Show of hands.
That's carried. So against.
Can we have that recorded, the against?
Yeah.
Phil.
Right. Okay. The completion of the Cycleways routes program by FY28. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
Mixed. We'll put up the no.
James, Catherine, Sam, Aaron, Phil.
Yep. Right. You must have been louder on that one. Connections to Norwest Arc Major Cycleway route. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. No. Hands up.
James.
Same.
Catherine.
No. James,
Sam,
Catherine,
Phil.
Sam, Phil.
Gardner's Road Shared Path. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. That's carried.
Do you want to record it? Yep.
Recorded no.
Just Pauline against
Just
that.
Pauline.
Yep.
Bring them back.
That's been carried.
Yep.
Very good. There you go.
Thanks, Andrew. My life hasn't been a waste of
No. That'll be the headline. The next shock move this afternoon. Christchurch City Council agreed with Aaron Curran. No. The speed limits. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
You've missed
What?
A24 though, wasn't
Oh,
it?
did I miss out?
No, that's right.
Has that been withdrawn?
We're on A26.
Yeah.
24.
It's
Just
gone.
to show that it's gone.
Yeah.
So can we take the
Yeah.
next one, the speed limits again, please? Yeah,
Yep.
26.
Okay. There's speed limits again. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. That's
Same
hands.
carried. Show of hands for not.
So it's the same. But not
Same.
Aaron.
Right. Opawaho Heathcote Major Cycleway route. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's lost.
Hands up.
Lost.
Hands up for the.
Hands up.
No.
Yeah.
Hands up for no.
Hands up for no. It's probably easier.
Consistent.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
So,
9 is me. Yeah.
so Davidson.
So that's
Goff,
lost.
Do we want to be recorded or just?
Do you want the ones who vote? Hands up for those who vote in favour.
In
So
favour.
it's Jimmy,
Chen. Oh, sorry.
In favour.
Turner, Chen, Johansson, Coker,
Aaron.
McClellan.
McClellan.
JD.
That was, is that the right count? 1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
7, 8. Yeah.
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 So that
Yep.
was not lost. Yep.
That's lost.
So only one. So
Okay, and Knight's Drain. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. That's lost. Would you like to put your hands up for aye? Phil and
McDonald.
Oh, okay, surprising.
Phil, Sam, Catherine, James, Yanni, and James.
Yep.
You got Yanni. 4, 5, 6, 7. And those are the yeses. Did you get?
Okay, right. So that's that. So are we going to have a brief adjournment while you redo the numbers? So maybe well, if you come back at 3:05, go and grab a cup of coffee. 10 minutes.